Okay.
Think we're about ready to go, Mark? Or should we give it a few for people to trickle in?
Go ahead and begin.
Right. Turn on my camera. Hey, so I want to thank you all for coming today for this educational session. This is really going to be pretty freeform. Just going to be working through some fallouts from a PSAP and kind of covering some of the things I find handy and helpful in ArcGIS Pro. If you don't know me, I'm Watson Harding. I'm the board's GIS specialist. Usually bug people about submittal deadlines and things like that. But yeah, just gonna get started here. We're going to send out the recording afterwards, and then I have a Word document that should have some of these kind of detailed for reference later. That'll be disseminated as well. But let's go ahead and get on here. So this is going to be in no particular order, but just as I mentioned, things that I find useful working in ArcGIS. So the first thing I'm going to cover is 9 times out of 10, the fallouts that we're working through after data's been processed through GIS Data Hub is going to be issues in the attribution for features. So something that can really help kind of speed up the processing time is down here in the bottom right of your map is a pause button for drawing. With anything, sometimes it's a little squirrely, but generally if you hover over icons in GIS, it'll pop up with the description before. So this is the pause drawing icon. And then it'll display here this dark text at the top. But basically what that's doing is it's not trying to redraw all the layers every time I zoom in and out. It's just stuck on that last view. And it just speeds up processing a little bit. So I find it handy if I'm not actually in there working on geometry issues, just to make things a little quicker. The next thing I want to point out is in your table of contents, there's actually different views you can list. I think they're called lists, but these are to display your layers that are in your current map document. So the default one is this list by drawing order, and that's just the display order of the different layers. But there are some more here that I tend to find more helpful. Usually what I switch to immediately is this list by data source. And what that does is it groups your layers by basically their file location. So here I have the actual data for Bullitt County. So underneath this, my SSP, my RCL, PSAP, etc. And then there's a separate GDB with the fallouts. So this is just a good way to keep your map document organized and just to be sure that you're editing against the appropriate layers. Next one over here is list by selection. And so this is a way to toggle every layer that you have in your map document. So I don't know about you all, but I've definitely been in a circumstance where I grab a feature, let's say like the PSAP boundary, and accidentally move it when I'm trying to edit something else. But this is a good way just for toggling that, just avoiding some of those, kind of mistakes that, we all make at one point or another. Next one here is the editing. So this is where we can toggle if layers are editable. So I'm going to disable that for PSAP so I don't move rat around accidentally. But I know sometimes people work in kind of a map document that they've inherited that has data from multiple different sources. and you're kind of trying to concentrate on the actual NG911 layers. So the selection, source, and editing list are really great just for having better handle of what data you're actually well, making sure you're editing the appropriate data, that you're not grabbing other things that might still be out there editable, but it's something like parcels or something of that sort that you don't want to be making changes to, but you already have in your map document for reference. Yeah, so those are two kind of like general practice. I usually switch when I open up a new map document on here. So I'm going to pop into unacceptable values here, take a look. Usually this extended information is the details from the fallout. And like anything, you can right click on the header in the column and do your sort ascending, sort descending, just to make sure that all these checks for discrepancy, agency ID, and the EMS layer, those are all here together in the top. So that is something that we can go ahead and knock out. I know that just to speak more generally, as the NG911 migration has been progressing, we're just being made aware from Comtech / Illyrium of some field values that don't work well with their system. And so those are being phased in. Which ones we can make into a QC check on GIS Data Hub, usually coming in as a warning, and then with a plan to later flip those to a critical error. So if you see jumps in your error count, that's usually what's going on there. So EMS discrepancy agency ID, something that we have in GIS Data Hub. So discrepancy agency ID it's basically an identifier for who is responsible for a feature in the aggregated NG911 layers. So if there's an issue, basically, who do we get a hold of to fix that? So for discrepancy agency ID, if this would play nicely for me, I'm gonna try opening this tab again here. Okay. Hey, if you don't take anything else away from this today, just know that sometimes things don't work for me at random points in time. So you're not the only one out there. Okay, that is being annoying. I'll come back to that. I'll just give it a few minutes. Basically, on the available packages, when you log into GIS Data Hub, there is a spreadsheet for discrepancy agency ID for every PSAP. So I already have that downloaded here. This KY discrepancy agency IDs is what it's called. And this is just a spreadsheet here of the values for every PSAP. So we'll pull in Bullitt County is this bullet.ky sheriff.org. I'm going to copy that value and open my attribute table for ESB EMS. And we can see here that this needs to be populated moving forward with that value. And one of the best ways to just take care of these batch attribute populations and changes is to right click on the column header and to go to calculate field. So this brings up a dialog window. We can see our input table is ESB EMS, so we're hitting against the right layer. Field name, discrepancy agency ID, that's correct. If we were switching over to a different one, it should by default open whatever column header you right click on, but if it doesn't, this drop down is every field in that table. Expression type, we'll come back to later with some other examples I found in this because there's some really neat stuff you can do, but we're just doing a simple calculation here, filling in discrepancy agency ID for every EMS feature in the layer. And so down here, discrepancy agency ID equals, we're going to do a double quote, paste our value there, bullet.kysheriff.org, and we either hit apply or OK. Apply just runs it. We can see it populated and keeps this window open. OK runs it and closes the dialog window. So that's going to be one of our most commonly used sort of shortcuts for just doing these large changes in fields. So if I go back to unacceptable values, something I like to do as I work through fallouts is selecting all those calls. So all of our ESB, EMS, discrepancy agency ID. If you don't know, you can click on a row and then hold down your shift key. And that's how you can do a multiple selection like you would in Excel or anything like that. And since this unacceptable values table is also currently like editable, I can just go ahead and do this delete selection and just cut down on those as I work through. So we have an a unique identifier also in EMS. Return to that. We'll go and do fire. We have a pretty large number here with discrepancy agency ID also. So again, we go back here to fire. We can see that discrepancy agency ID is null for every feature in that layer. Something you can do, I was going to say, this is also probably the second big takeaway from today is working with your select by attributes. That is tremendously helpful, not just for grabbing the specific features you need, but checking for kind of errant values in a column. So this again launches a little dialog window. We're hitting against ESB fire, and we're just doing a new selection. There's some more advanced ones you can do if you're trying to add to the current selection, create a sub-selection, remove things that meet a certain criteria or select based on that criteria a subset. But we'll just stick with new selection here. And there's this dialog window down here. First drop down is the field. So again, it grabs every column in the every field header in the table. We go down here to discrepancy agency ID. We have a middle window pop up. So this is our operator. So we have equal to, not equal to, etc. And this last one will actually hit against every value that is in that column. So the 61, 210. There's one feature which has that. I'm not sure how that got in, but I'm going to assume that it's an errant value on your when you have your attribute tables open like this, in the bottom left corner, you can switch between show all records in that layer and just to show the selected layers or the selected records, excuse me. So yes, we can see this 61-210. We have one value in that. You will notice our select by attributes disappears when we're in selected records. So if that happens, we switch back and we can see it pops back here. Again, discrepancy agency ID. This is going to be just like with the EMS. We're hitting fire, discrepancy. You will notice here this use selected records popped up because of that earlier selection I did. So what I want to do is close out of this and hit clear. And that will take me back to actually hitting all of the records. So when I go back to calculate field, we can see there's no longer that selected records. What that means is if you have a selection and you go to calculate field, you can toggle between hitting every feature or hitting only the selected records. It's gonna say it used to be something you had to be, it's still a good idea to be mindful of, but something that I really am glad that they implemented is in your calculate field, this pending edits basically gives you an undo button, a redo button, and a save. Before, kind of in earlier versions of ArcGIS, it was a lot easier to do a field calculation that was not reversible. So something that they improved. I'm going to go ahead and save from those EMS ones we calculated. And again, ASB fire, discrepancy agency ID, go down to our equal, quote, Bill County Sheriff. That time I hit OK, close the window for me, and it has it calculated for every fire feature. Go back to unacceptable values. Go to the top here, discrepancy agency ID, and scroll down to the end of this group of fallouts. So fire discrepancy agency ID 352. Okay. And delete. And that's the thing is a lot of times working through these, it just speeds up the process. And again, I think the important thing is to not be intimidated if a large number of fallouts come in from your last upload. A lot of these are, pretty quick to just get up and going. Well, we can see road center lines. This is probably going to take care of a large number of these. RCL. Scroll over to discrepancy agency ID. If I can find it. There we go. So we can see most of these have the right value, but again, if we go to select by attributes, we can go ahead and hit against discrepancy agency ID. Unfortunately, the order in which it gives you your fields in this drop down is kind of just the order that the fields were created. So I know some people work with just the Nina GIS schema fields. Other people have other values that are needed for other purposes in there. But sometimes it's just the nature of the beast to find our correct field. So discrepancy agency ID is equal, and I'm going to see what we have in here. So this is actually, there's some features that were falling outside of Bullitt County on this upload. So if we wanted to, we could actually grab those. So let's see, Hardin County 911, and we can do a multi-part selection with this add new clause. And so it gives us either an and or an or as the link between them. So we can actually make a multi line query. So let's say in this case, I want to keep these features, but these are coming in from neighboring PSAPs. So I could either do our multi-line one of discrepancy agency ID, equals all those values. Like anything with a SQL query, sometimes it's easier to switch it to is not equal to Bullitt County. So we have 77 there. And because these are coming in from neighboring PSAPs, I might have these in my data just for, other purposes, informational awareness. If I want to accept these from my upload so it's not throwing out an error, I can create a GC exception field. If you don't have one already, just get in contact with the Geocom team. I think by default it's a 75 character long string, but just so they can match up in the in GIS Data Hub that it's looking for an exception field. So again, I'm hitting only selected records, so these 77 that did not originate from Bullitt County. And it's a string, so that means it's a text value, but I'm just going to populate here as 999. So that means in the future that when this data is uploaded, those features will just be dropped at the point of upload. So I can go ahead, delete these discrepancy agency IDs. Let me see if this is reloading for me. Here we go. Okay, great. So in GIS Data Hub, so if you get a fallout that says that discrepancy agency ID needs to be populated, but you don't know what that is, under data packages, available packages, it is this KY discrepancy agency IDs 2025. We download that. It's just a, I think I opened it before, but just an Excel sheet. If you need to find that in the future, that's where it lives. It's on GIS Data Hub there, and that should be in everyone's tenant when they log in under available packages. So again, take care of that. Okay. So something that has changed, I know previously we gave guidance to have incorporated municipality where it falls outside of incorporated city boundaries to populate with unincorporated. Again, this is something that we learned as we were progressing with the migration that Illyrium prefers us to have those completely nulled out. So we'll go to RCL, clear our previous selection, switch to show all records so we can get our icon here. Do our new selection on incorporated Muni left. And actually do is not, well, in this case, we do is not null as our operator. So we have some that are done correctly already. So we're not hitting everything on this. And we'll go to incorporate municipality left. Aha. So this is something to be mindful of. Since I ran a query as just is not null, I'm actually getting valid values here. So for instance, these roads in Hillview. So let me go back and do a different type of query. So if I do is not equal to, okay. Well, in this case, we can see most of these are good. We just have two different forms of unincorporated, so I'm instead going to do as is equal to unincorporated. There's actually a little toggle up here, this SQL editor, and that just switches the dialog box to where you can type in a query instead. So it'll have these pop-ups to try to dynamically associate things if you're starting to type with the field name. So we already had our incorporated municipality left equals unincorporated. This is actually going to be an or. Muni left equals, and then I think there was an all caps. Okay. And you can see that's not working. It wants to do single quotes in the selection. That's why the text is red. So that should grab the values where we have you can switch to show selected values and go to incorporate municipality left. Okay. I'm just going to do a quick spot check. Yeah, and this looks like it was successful. So to calculate something as a true null, we'll right click, go to calculate field. It's hitting our selected records. And for the value, I'm just going to do open and close parentheses. Nothing in between, no space. Like if you do a space, it'll come back as a single character, white space. So just to make it truly null, just open and close parentheses, not parentheses, quotation. And we can see that even though it doesn't say, the null in this fashion, it is actually nulled out. Yeah, that's just a default display with that arrow null arrow. That's not an actual value. It's just indicating that there is no value there, which is what we want. I'm going to go ahead and do this on same thing on incorporate municipality right. Again, switch back to show all records, select by attributes, can change it to incorporate municipality right. And we get incorporated and unincorporated. And again, calculate field, open and close quotation, nothing in between. All right, and those are nulled out. So something I noticed, this is more just housekeeping, but I noticed that I have different capitalizations here for Saul Hillview and a few other ones. So I can right click here, calculate field, to incorporate municipality left. And then over here in this right box are basically different Python calls. So this dot capitalize, open and close parentheses. You can see like the statement is basically how Python reads it is an exclamation, field name, exclamation is how it distinguishes fields. And then it has this dot capitalize on it. So that should change everything to the beginning, yeah, just normal capitalization. You can see it did give us a warning for the null values. We can ignore that. It's always good to look at these just to see what's going on, but basically since there's null values in that column, it's letting us know that, hey, it wasn't able to process on these features because there was no value for it to try to capitalize on. Do that with incorporate municipality right as well. You want to make sure it tends to save your last statement in these. So it's always a good idea just to double check. So you can see here it's trying to do incorporate municipality left. Just going to select this, backspace, and go on down here to incorporate municipality right, dot capitalize. Again, it's letting me know that it couldn't process that on features with the null value in that column, but it looks a lot better. So, although you may notice Mount Washington, Lebanon Junction, we have a couple of these that that did not do this. It just started with the entire string. Sometimes you have to be careful. You can get yourself into trouble. So I'm just going to clean these up further. Again, with the select by attributes, delete my second part of the query there. Incorporate municipality left is equal. So Cox's Creek, Fox, Chase, Hebron Estates. There's a couple of these. So grab Cox's Creek, calculate. And this is a situation where the hitting the apply can be nice. Just as we clean these up. So I'm going to do Cox's Creek, apply it. And then I still have this open. I can just go down the list here to Fox Chase, apply. Setting 18 selected, 18 selected. And I'll just do one more here. So Hebron Estates. Okay. Going back to our unacceptable values, clear out these unincorporated. It's actually a lot here. Well, we'll just move forward interest of kind of covering some more topics. Okay. RCL NG UID is null. So again, another change that has come through is the format for unique identifiers. So I have opened the NINA standard for NG911 GIS data model document. It's a pretty exhaustive glossary of all of these, but we can see our example, the RN, :emergency, :UID. So we can go to RCL. Okay, so there's a global ID field that they've created. The main thing is we don't want to be creating the unique identifiers every time we upload data. Just when that gets put into the kind of the staging area for Illyrium system, it does a change detection. So when features have their unique identifier change, it's just going to throw back a large number of like, hey, there were changes to these features. So just to kind of keep that a little more focused on actual issues we might run into. Just yeah, be mindful. I would recommend not rerunning this every time. I mean, it should be something that you do, you know, once or twice and then as needed moving forward. So just to verify that this global ID is actually unique values, I'm going to right click on it here and I am going to go to summarize. So this will allow me, again, I want to hit every record, so I'm going to untoggle that use selected records. And it will create a statistics kind of little table for me. So I'm just going to put this in my GDB for the project, kind of just scratch data. And I'm going to call this RCL global ID. So there's a statistics you can compute. So I'm going to do global ID, statistic type, count. Go ahead and run this. And this should be added, yep, here at the bottom. You can see now we have a third source for data, so that local scratch GDB. And if I open that table, I actually get a count of all those values. So I'm going to sort descending, and there's nothing more than one. So I know, hey, that global ID field, everything is unique in that. So when I go back to RCL and go to our RCL and GUID, so this is in the previous format. So this is at the time how we were having people populate that. as I mentioned, the guidance on that has changed. I want to hit all the features, so I'm turning off that use selected records, hitting RCL and GUID. And if I go to my handy dandy thing right here, okay. So we can actually write a pretty complex calculation in here. So our URN is URN emergency UID GIS. So that's going to be our first part here. So put that in our quotations. And there's actually a colon at the end of that. But I'm going to use this plus sign to do a concatenation, so combining text elements with field elements. So the next step after that URN prefix is the layer indicator, so RCL. It's going to be in quotations because it's text. It'll actually be RCL and then another colon. Then, okay, and then it's going to be that global ID field is similar. These don't all have to be the 64 character long unique identifier. If you want to run it on something like object ID, it's okay. Just be aware, like if you're exporting, re-importing data, a lot of times it will start creating multiple object ID fields. You just want something that's consistent. So I'm going to scroll down on the left here to fields, and this is actually going to do, exclamation global ID exclamation, so it knows it needs to grab the value from that column. There's a colon after that, and then our agency identifier. So colon and .ky sheriff. All right. So now we can see we have all of our road center lines are now in the proper unique identifier format now. Go ahead and save this, close that. Okay. Go download it here. Okay, so here's one. SSAP layer's address number contains an unacceptable value 0. Sometimes you do run into an actual 0 that actually came up recently. So if you have a situation where that is the addressed, the actual, addressed place, just reach out to Geocom on some more guidance on that. Ideally, it would be something where that address would be changed on the number. Again, that can require some legwork and getting in contact with the residents, but just know that for the time being, even if it's just exception coding that out until that administrative change can be made, you can do that. Again, I would just inform Geocom of the issue if you were to do so. So I started ascending to see where that 0 was. Again, if we do a select by attributes on address number, This drop down will look for every unique value in that, but just the 0. We can take care of that. It might be an actual, typo that needs to be fixed. Just to save time here, I'm going to say it is valid and it's something that we need to follow up on and readdress. I don't know why I did that. As I mentioned, sometimes things are weird for all of us. I will skip that for the time being, but that's something to be aware of. Just checking for zeros or null values in your address number is something that we want to be mindful of. And the issue sometimes is that GIS Data Hub can usually check for a limited number of values. I'll get into this a little bit, well, actually right after this, but just be aware that things like typos may not be caught because the QC checks are just doing a basic, is there a value in this field, and is it not these values that aren't acceptable? But if you're trying to program in every possible typo people could make, that would be never ending. So what did I want to mention here? Okay, so so again, the select by attributes is really good for finding those issues, those typos. So if I'm going to go to SSAP, there tends to be some, this tends to be where the bulk is, just where addresses are parsed out into all these different columns. So if I go street pre-modifier, again, hit my select by attributes, what I can do is just do a quick check on this. So there's actually no addresses that are using the street pre-modifier, but if someone had accidentally typed in, say, like the address number in that, it would pop up. You move down to street pre-directional. You see east, north, south, west. That's good. Pre-type. Highway and United States Highway. Separator. That's good. Name. Won't do anything on this point. Street post type. Yeah. Scroll through these. These are all looking good. Post directional. Those all look good. Post modifier. Those look good. We have noticed that sometimes typos get put into some of these fields, so we ask that check it periodically if you would. I was gonna say address number we already looked at. Let's see if we have a address prefix or suffix. I think unit is a good one here. So unit. Okay. Interesting. So something that has come up is having a leading space. Again, that's something we want to eliminate. So a way you can do that is where unit contains the text. I'm going to do quotation space, and then I can put in a wildcard here, so it's a percentage. So that'll be any value that follows a leading space. which I don't have in this case, which is good. So I'm going to change it to the equal. Yep. So that is not an issue in this PSAP's data. All right, got about 10 minutes left here. Effective and expiration dates. So this is another thing to be aware of is your expiration and effective dates. Go over here, find that here. It may not actually exist in their data. Let's see. Yep, we just have data updated. On expiration and effective dates, I would defer to keeping effective or keeping expiration date null. Just the number of times that there's going to be a temporary feature, that's just going to be exceedingly rare for the Commonwealth. So that's something that I would just go ahead and null out completely is the expiration date. Just how data gets stored and sometimes where default values get put in. Yeah, you can end up with some very wonky values like 1899, etc., that will actually cause the data to not populate in the core services for an NG 911. So that's something that I think if you all have been getting correspondence from Jessica Fry over at Geocom, she's really good about pointing out some of those issues and really just ask questions if you have them. But her guidance on this stuff has been pretty rock solid. So I would say expiration date for sure. Probably go ahead and null out. Effective date, don't quote me on saying to null that out, but that is something where you probably just want to put, you know, the beginning of the calendar year, like 1/1/2025 or something, for the time being. If that changes, we'll try to inform you all. But it's kind of like where we are at this point in the project is just running into these little picadillos. But, more we knock out ahead of time, the quicker everything gets switched on and we start onboarding more and more PSAPs. So I covered leading spaces. Let me see if we do have any leading space callouts here. Okay, we don't. We do have some nulls in legacy street name. Again, that'd just be selecting where legacy street name is null, just to narrow those down and work through them. This remaining time, yeah, covered. Okay, unincorporated community. So something else that we've noticed in some data is unincorporated community and neighborhood community is sometimes values end up in there that aren't correct. So I'm going to do on unincorporated. Again, just do this quick glance at the unique values in it. So unincorporated community is good. And I'm going to presume that neighborhood community is probably good if it's not populated. Yeah. The basic thing is just the only times that really the unincorporated community, neighborhood community are going to be used by the system is situations where you have a road name that's used in two different locations in your PSAP, and I don't mean like along a longer, like road. I mean, if you have actually on two separate parts of the county, someone at some point decided to reuse the road name. These are kind of like the last order fields that will be used to distinguish the two. So, I mean, first of all, we hope we live in a world where we don't have these duplicates, like street names for streets that connect. But if we do, it will usually go and use incorporated municipality to distinguish those. Check a few more of my notes here. Agent safety. Okay. Um, just see. I'll do one more thing, and then if you give me another 5 minutes, I'll show something else. So something with the add data that I've run into is if I unzip a folder I'm working on here. So I think I had, yeah, the green up fallouts. So say I extract this and I'm wanting to add these fallouts. You can see I'm in my GIS tips and tricks folder, but I'm not seeing it. There's actually a refresh button here. And now we can see that that folder I unzipped now pops up. So if we're into a circumstance where, things aren't appearing, that's one of the first things I would try is just to make it look again and relist everything there. Yeah, I know. Table cleanup is not super exciting, so I will end instead on some geometry stuff that you all will hopefully find useful. So I'm going to take out my kind of more tabular fallouts here. Let's see. Okay, so I can look for overlaps and gaps. Okay, so ESB law overlap. So I'll zoom to unpause my drawing. And it's gonna say you can turn off and on visibility in the source and drawing order list. So let me turn off RCL there. Turn off PSAP, turn on back law. Okay. Hillview PD. So I'm seeing there where those overlap. So again, if you go in to edit your vertices, pop this on here. This is actually, yeah, not super exciting. Just cleaning these up. When you're editing vertices, holding down the D key changes it to the delete. So then you can draw your little lasso and do that. And then Control Z if you do something like I just did. Go too far. And then usually F2 will do it, but sorry, I'm rambling here. What I wanted to show is with PSAP boundary, um, just because all data in your submission should nest within your PSAP boundary. I want to see if I have any fallouts where it's saying that basically that the borders aren't aligned here. So multi-layer overhang. This might be what I'm looking for. So feature class extends past a polygon from another layer. Okay, so this is probably my ESB law layer extends past the PSAP layer. So I'm going to turn off everything except for, oh, actually I don't have the law. Let me add that in. I might have deleted that or removed that accidentally. Let's see. ESB law. Okay, there we go. Something you can do, kind of see these better, is if you right click on your layer, go to, they always seem to like change where this actually lives. Yeah. Used to be that in ArcGIS 10. I want that. Boy. Oh, well, it's a good chance to show y'all what I end up doing a lot of times, which is Googling the answers. So I want to change transparency ArcGIS Pro. Yeah, I don't care. No, I don't care. All right. Does the AI answer? I'm just going to scroll down to get the actual Esri documentation. So visibility range, effects. Okay, so the effects tool changes the visual appearance of a symbolized feature for more information applied. I think what they did is they moved it to the top rhythm here. Okay, let's see. It's not analysis. Insert. Contents. It's a tile layer tab. Oh, here we go. Feature layer, that's it. So, yeah. Sometimes it's just a matter of searching for things, but you can see here, feature layer and then transparency. I can bump that up to, say, 75%. I have my PSAP, turn that on. So we can see, yeah, there's a little bump in from the PSAP boundary that I need to align the law polygon with. Something that so we'll make sure that these look okay. This is actually slightly off, which will be good to show y'all. So when I kind of do these alignments, there's a couple different ways. We could get into topology that can be pretty complex and just squirrely, for lack of a better word. But something that I find very helpful for doing these edge alignments is doing vertices to points. So feature vertices to points. So I can drop in PSAP boundary. Just put my output in just this local project folder, PSAP vertices. Okay, and hit run. And so what this is great for is it takes, let me turn off these other points. Yeah, what this is good for is it's really great for seeing the actual vertices you're trying to match up between different polygons. So I can go into, well, switch over to selectable, turn off everything but ESB law. Okay. Sometimes I like to actually bump things out a little bit. I find it works better with the, ooh, why my modified vertices failed. I have found that a lot of times when stuff like that happens, it's because there's unsaved edits. Let me see what this little warning flag is for. Okay, so it's being projected on the fly, which is causing us some trouble. So I want to check my projections here. So I go to properties, ESV law, on source, spatial reference. So I'm in Kentucky North. So if you want to check and see what it's trying to project everything in for the entire map viewer, you right click on map, go to properties, coordinate systems. Okay, here it is. So it's having me do this in WGS 1984, and it's upset about having to reproject data on the fly. So I'm just going to do a search for KY North. You can actually use the layers to choose it. So you can see my ESB law, fire, EMS, PSAP. Aha. These are actually in two different projections. So I'm going to change, let me change law to that NAT83, not the NAT83 2011, just to match these up. Spatial reference. Copy. Run reproject or project. So input, my law, output, dataset. I put this in Okay, some tips and tricks. And I want to make sure I'm putting this in our actual workspace here. Output coordinate system. I want to do it as the same as PSAP. So net 83 north. And run. And then I'm going to take out this ESP law. So I'm working on the one that's projected into the same coordinate system as my PSAP boundary. And hopefully now this works. I need to change my selection. ESP law reproject. Gonna edit ESP law reproject. Yeah, my experience, if you're unsure if something is snapped correctly, I like to bump the vertice off of it. Oh gosh. Okay, and it's because our map is in the geez. Okay. Net 83 north, PSAP, can change our whole map into the same projection. And hopefully it'll work this time. Oh, geez. I did not test this part of the session beforehand. Yeah. Well, be an issue. I don't have a current edit session going. Let's see. I want to check my PSAP vertices also. It's should be right. Hmm. Okay. I won't take up any of y'all's time further just because, yeah, this is a deeper kind of issue that's going on. But the point of what I was trying to show y'all is converting like your PSEP vertices to points just visually. If I'm adjusting this, it makes it so much easier to snap to those points, and those will be, the vertexes, and just do my edge alignment a little cleaner there. So apologies for the technical difficulties, but yeah, there's some wonky things going on there that I'll be following up with on this PSAP. Yeah, just to end our session, are there kind of any questions or anything you all wanted to share for the good of the group? Sort of some things you have found helpful in your day to day? Right. Not hearing anything. Just want to say thank you all for attending again. I hope that you found some of this helpful. Just getting in there and kind of the way to think about GIS sometimes is it's a spreadsheet married up with the spatial location of data. So just when you're getting into those tables, kind of you can start treating it more like Excel in terms of kind of finding some shortcuts to kind of filter your data and not have to go by, feature by feature to fix some of these fallouts that come through. Again, thank you all for your work on this. I mean, we're making some great progress in the migration. And just like some notes I want to leave you all on, if you are able to get your MSAG tables from your telco providers, that's kind of one of those values, MSAG community, that we were hoping would be phased out in Next Gen 911. It's kind of like the legacy fields for streets and addresses where it's just continuing on because something at some point is looking for that, and we're not quite to the point of being able to completely abandon it. But it is something that we're going to need to be needs to be populated in your all's data. So that's something that you could do to help speed along the migration process is getting a hold of MSAG information and populating it into your data. If you're not able to get that from your telco, or you think that's a little bit beyond your technical abilities, we are working on getting a contract in place with Geocom similar to the GIS remediation projects to take care of that. But really, I think for most of y'all, that's some pretty low-hanging fruit that we can take care of in anticipation of migrations coming up here, the first batch in November, but definitely next year, 2026. Plan is to start moving just more rapidly through the Commonwealth. And again, this is your all's data that supports it. I know we have a quarterly data requirement, but we're probably moving towards wanting you all to upload more frequently just to keep the data consistent and recent. And really, my advice is not just to upload and kind of check that off of your things to do, but to glance at your fallouts, to reach out to me or Geocom, and kind of take care of those as promptly as possible, just because the quicker we have our GIS data ready to go, the quicker we can start implementing that in the PSAP and doing all the wonderful things like cutting down on, reroutes and all the other things that delay response. So leave you all with that, and yeah, enjoy the rest of your all's day.